Pernell Roberts played Adam Cartwright on Bonanza and appeared to be a true gentleman, calm, sure of himself, and incredibly charming. But underneath that polished surface lived a man with strong beliefs. He was someone who always said what he thought, no matter what it might cost him. Most Hollywood actors back then played things carefully, hiding their real feelings and keeping their opinions to themselves. Pernell was different. He thought being honest was more important than being popular, even when it meant losing friends, missing out on jobs, and losing respect in the business. At many Hollywood parties, he didn't hide the fact that there were certain people he just couldn't tolerate. These were actors whose pride, fakeness, or dishonesty went against everything he believed in. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 people at the top of his private list and the shocking stories behind each disagreement. After you hear these stories, you'll see these stars in a completely different light. But first, if you appreciate Pernell Roberts or love classic Western shows, please subscribe to our channel. The real story behind Hollywood's golden age is much more interesting than the fantasy it presented. Pernell Elvin Roberts Jr. came into the world on May 18, 1928, in the small town of Waycross, Georgia, a quiet part of the Deep South, where life during the Great Depression was really tough. He was the only child of Pernell Roberts Sr., who worked hard as a sales manager for Dr. Pepper, and Minnie Myrtle Morgan Roberts, a caring mother who encouraged his early interest in learning and creating. Even when he was young, Pernell was different from other kids. He wasn't interested in getting into trouble or playing sports like most boys his age. What he loved was music and performing. He played the horn in his school band and performed at church events. Still, even with his natural talent for the stage, becoming an actor wasn't something he planned, at least not in the beginning. After finishing high school, he signed up at Georgia Tech, planning to have a practical career in engineering. But he quickly figured out that working with blueprints and math problems wasn't what his heart wanted. In 1946, he joined the United States Marine Corps and served his country for 2 years. While wearing the uniform, he found comfort in the steady rhythm of music, playing the tuba and horn in the Marine Corps band. This kept his love for art alive even while living the structured life of the military. When his time in the service was over, Pernell decided to take a risk. He enrolled at the University of Maryland, where the stage pulled him back in. Getting involved in student theater, he felt a stronger connection to acting. It felt less like just a pastime and more like what he was meant to do. Soon after, Roberts made the brave decision to leave college and chase his dream full-time. He set off on an uncertain but passionate journey that would turn him into one of TV's most memorable stars. In the early 1950s, Pernell Roberts packed up his dreams and headed to New York City, a place where talent and hard work were often all that really mattered. There, he joined the well-known American Academy of Dramatic Arts, improving his skills while working various odd jobs just to pay the bills. It wasn't an easy time, but Pernell never thought about quitting. His patience was rewarded in 1952 when he got his first stage role in The Man Who Came to Dinner. It was a small part, but it was the first real step in what would become an impressive and sometimes rebellious acting career. A career shaped not by chasing fame, but by his choice to live only by his own rules. After that first taste of success, Pernell dove completely into theater. His powerful voice, magnetic personality, and commitment to every role quickly made him stand out. Before long, he was performing in some of the greatest plays ever written: Macbeth, The Taming of the Shrew, and Romeo and Juliet. His work with the Shakespeare Festival in New York gave him a reputation as a serious, passionate actor whose skill could captivate an entire audience. By the late 1950s, Hollywood started paying attention. In 1958, Pernell made his first film appearance in Desire Under the Elms, acting alongside Sophia Loren and Burl Ives, a performance that showed he could match up with the biggest stars. That same year, he appeared in The Sheep Man, a Western that gave a hint of the type of show that would soon define his career. Over the next year, he took roles in popular TV shows like The Virginian and Gunsmoke, slowly building his reputation across the industry.
Then 1959 arrived, the year that changed everything. Pernell Roberts was chosen to play Adam Cartwright, the smart and reliable oldest son on NBC's Bonanza. The show became one of television's biggest hits, and almost immediately, Roberts became famous. Week after week, millions of people watched to see the Cartwright family's adventures on the Ponderosa Ranch. Among them, it was Pernell's quiet strength and sharp mind that made a lasting impression. But behind all the fame and praise, Roberts felt something wasn't right. A growing feeling that the role everyone celebrated him for didn't really show who he was as a person. Pernell Roberts was never someone who stayed quiet when something bothered him. On Bonanza, this made him both respected and feared. He often disagreed with the show's producers, upset by what he saw as weak writing and not enough real substance in his character, Adam Cartwright. To Roberts, the show had all the fame and attention in the world, but very little social importance or artistic challenge. So in 1965, after 6 successful seasons and while he was at the peak of his fame, he made a choice that surprised everyone. He quit. Many people thought his career was finished, but Pernell wasn't scared to start over. He went back to his first passion, theater, while also taking guest appearances on different television shows, determined to rebuild his career the way he wanted. His determination eventually worked. By the late 1970s, he got the main role in Trapper John, M.D., receiving praise from critics and winning over a whole new group of fans. But behind that calm voice and thoughtful look, Pernell still had strong opinions, especially about certain people he'd worked with. That brings us to the part of his story that few people know about, the 5 actors Pernell Roberts really couldn't stand, and the surprising reasons behind each conflict. Once you hear them, you'll never look at these Hollywood stars the same way again.
1. Michael Landon. At first, Roberts' relationship with Bonanza's youngest star was polite and even friendly, but as Landon's ambition increased, so did the tension between them. Charismatic and loved by fans, Landon was quickly becoming the show's favorite. Behind the scenes, though, Roberts saw him in a different light: manipulative, selfish, and obsessed with being in control. As Landon gained more power, he started writing and directing episodes, often changing scenes to make his character, Little Joe, look better, sometimes making other characters look worse. Roberts was angry. According to people on the inside, he once confronted Landon face to face, saying, "You're not trying to improve the show, you're trying to make yourself more important." From that moment on, the two hardly talked, unless the script required it. Roberts hated what he called Landon's perfect public image, believing he was someone who only pretended to have depth on screen, but avoided any real depth in his actual life. When Roberts finally left Bonanza, Landon's silence, his total lack of response, was the ultimate insult. Years later, when Michael Landon became famous again with Little House on the Prairie, Pernell Roberts couldn't help making a sharp comment. "It's more of the same," he reportedly said. "He's still playing cowboy, still playing saint." It was a harsh statement that showed just how deep the bad feelings still were.
2. Dan Blocker-Pernell's conflict. With Dan, who played the gentle and much-loved Hoss Cartwright, didn't come from anger, but from disappointment. In the early days of Bonanza, the two were friends. Both had classical acting training, both cared about giving their characters depth and truth. But as Roberts' fights with the network got louder, Blocker started backing away. Pernell took it personally. He thought Dan should have supported him, especially when he criticized the show's shallow writing and its lack of respect toward Native American characters. Instead, Blocker tried to be the peacemaker, always calming things down rather than challenging the producers. To Pernell, that showed weakness. In one bitter moment, he told a reporter, "Dan had the heart, but not the courage. He chose comfort over doing what was right."
The tension hit its worst point one day when Roberts walked off the set in the middle of a scene, furious about what he called a humiliating script. When Blocker kept filming, Pernell talked to him later, saying quietly but firmly, "You had a choice. You always had a choice." From then on, their friendship slowly fell apart. Though Blocker never said anything bad about Roberts publicly, he also never defended him. The silence between them said everything, and it was that silence that caused the most pain.
3. Chuck Connors. This particular conflict didn't start on the Bonanza set, but it was just as intense. Connors, the star of The Rifleman, met Roberts at a charity event celebrating Western television legends. Tall, confident, and adored by fans, Connors had a presence that was hard to miss. But according to people who were there, his behavior backstage told a different story. He was reportedly rude to the crew and treated everyone around him like they were beneath him. For someone like Pernell Roberts, who valued respect and humility above everything, that kind of arrogance was unacceptable. Roberts didn't like what he witnessed that night. According to witnesses, he stood quietly in the corner as Chuck Connors publicly scolded a young assistant over a small error, a moment that revealed a side of Connors few people ever saw. When the two met backstage, Roberts didn't hold anything back. Words were exchanged quickly. Roberts called Connors a fake, accusing him of caring more about being famous than earning respect. Connors shot back, mocking Roberts as a bitter person who couldn't handle success. That argument ended any friendship between them. From then on, Roberts privately called Connors all hat, no soul, a man obsessed with his image but hollow inside. To Roberts, Connors represented everything wrong with Hollywood. Charming on camera, cruel when the cameras were off.
4. Lorne Greene. Among all of Roberts' conflicts, none hurt more deeply than his feud with the man who played his on-screen father, Ben Cartwright. To millions of fans, their relationship looked warm and real, but behind the scenes, it was far from that. Roberts often said the relationship felt suffocating, that Greene, both on camera and off, had a controlling presence he couldn't stand. Roberts resented how Greene seemed perfectly happy with the show's formula, the neat endings, the simple morals, and the lack of social relevance. While Roberts wanted to push Bonanza towards something more meaningful, stories with moral complexity and human truth, Greene stayed loyal to the network's safe approach. To Roberts, that wasn't professionalism. It was giving up. He chose comfort over courage, Pernell once said to a friend. What started as artistic tension soon became personal. Roberts believed Greene saw him as a threat, a younger actor unafraid to challenge scripts or question the direction. On set, the atmosphere between them grew colder with each passing season. Roberts hated the way Greene's authority influenced the cast, how everyone, especially the younger actors, seemed to follow him without asking questions. By 1965, he'd had enough. He walked away from Bonanza and from one of the biggest salaries in television, choosing his principles over financial security. When asked why he left, Roberts' answer was simple and perfectly him. "I just couldn't spend the rest of my life taking my hat off and saying, 'Yes, Pa.'" To the public, Lorne Greene was America's favorite TV father, wise, steady, and endlessly kind. But to Pernell Roberts, he represented everything he hated about Hollywood's fear of taking chances. Where others saw warmth, Roberts saw settling, a man too willing to play it safe, too comfortable keeping things the way they were.
5. James Drury. Known as the serious star of The Virginian, Drury's conflict with Roberts wasn't about acting methods or fame. It was about beliefs. Pernell had always been vocal about the issues that mattered to him. He spoke openly against racism, the Vietnam War, and what he saw as Hollywood's cowardice in silencing different opinions. Drury, on the other hand, was a proud conservative who believed politics didn't belong in entertainment. Their clash of ideologies came to a head in the 1970s during a televised panel about the future of television. Roberts passionately criticized the networks for avoiding real-world issues and turning Westerns into what he called comfort food for the masses. Drury didn't hesitate to argue back, saying, "The public doesn't want sermons, they want entertainment." The argument quickly became personal. Witnesses remembered that when the event ended, the two refused to shake hands. Later, Roberts told a close friend, "Drury was never just an actor. He was a spokesperson for keeping things the same." What made him most angry was Drury's silence during the Civil Rights Movement, a time when his voice could have made a difference. To Roberts, staying silent when injustice was happening wasn't staying neutral, it was betrayal.
Through it all, Pernell Roberts never gave in to expectations. He was a man of fierce conviction, willing to give up comfort for truth. But while Hollywood knew him as bold, outspoken, and unbending, his private life told a different story. One marked by heartbreak, loneliness, and the quiet struggles of a man who demanded as much honesty from himself as he did from the world around him. Pernell Roberts' personal life was as troubled as his career was brave. He married 4 times, each marriage marked by its own problems. His first marriage to Vera, a theater professor, started in 1951 and gave him a son, Jonathan Christopher Roberts. Pernell loved Jonathan deeply, but his growing career and restless nature made it hard to stay grounded in family life. By 1959, the marriage ended in divorce. Though he stayed in his son's life, distance and emotional walls often made their relationship difficult. His next 2 marriages, to Judith Lebrecht and then Cara Nack, also ended in divorce. Friends and colleagues often noted that Pernell was a man who wanted personal freedom and found emotional closeness difficult. Intensely private, he kept his deepest feelings locked inside, unintentionally creating barriers between himself and those who loved him most. Perhaps his greatest heartbreak came in 1989, when his only son, Jonathan, tragically died in a motorcycle accident at just 38 years old. The loss left Pernell devastated. Friends said he was never quite the same afterward, and while he spoke very little about it publicly, the grief stayed with him for the rest of his life. In his later years, Pernell found some comfort with his 4th wife, Eleanor Criswell, whom he married in 1997. They stayed together until his death, giving him companionship and peace. Yet even then, the shadows of lost love, failed marriages, and the unbearable grief of losing a child never completely disappeared. Pernell Roberts lived life on his own terms, fearless, outspoken, and uncompromising. But the freedom he claimed came at a deep personal cost. Beneath the confident public image was a man who carried a lifetime of quiet sadness. Pernell Roberts' life off-screen was filled with love, loss, and quiet struggles that few people ever witnessed. In his later years, he chose a life far from Hollywood's spotlight, embracing peace and privacy over fame. After leaving Bonanza at its peak, he continued acting in television and theater, but always on his own terms. In the 1980s, he found renewed success with Trapper John M.D., captivating a whole new generation of fans with his commanding presence and depth of performance. Even as the spotlight faded, Roberts remained firm in his beliefs. Fiercely private and thoughtful, he avoided fan conventions and rarely gave interviews, preferring to spend his time on music, social justice, and those closest to him. Behind the calm exterior, he faced a silent battle with cancer. On January 24, 2010, Pernell Roberts passed away at his Malibu home at the age of 81 from pancreatic cancer, a disease he faced with courage and quiet dignity. His passing marked the end of an era, leaving him as the last surviving member of Bonanza's original cast. Though he never chased fame or played Hollywood politics, Roberts' impact on television and acting was significant. He was a pioneer who walked away from a hit show when it failed to meet his artistic and moral standards. Long before it was common, he spoke out on social and racial issues, demanding meaningful and honest roles, not just for himself, but for all performers. Fans remember him not only as the strong, silent Adam Cartwright, but as a man of conviction and integrity. His legacy lies not just in the characters he portrayed, but in the stands he took, the risks he dared to take, and the lessons he left behind. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply walk away. Pernell Roberts may have passed, but his voice, both on screen and off, continues to resonate with those who admired his talent and respected his unwavering principles.
At his death, he left behind more than memories, an estimated fortune of $10 million. For most people, Pernell Roberts' career would have seemed like the ultimate success story, a lifetime of work in Hollywood rewarded with fame and wealth. But for Pernell, none of that ever truly mattered. Money didn't appeal to him. Fame never excited him. Even at the height of Bonanza, when he earned nearly $10,000 per episode and became one of the highest-paid actors of the 1960s, he felt a quiet restlessness, an unshakable need for something more meaningful. While the world admired his polished performances and the glamour of television stardom, Pernell struggled with the industry's compromises behind the scenes. He hated how art was turned into a product, how emotion and authenticity were repackaged for mass consumption. He didn't want to be a celebrity. He wanted to live with purpose. For a time, he played the part. He wore the costume, delivered his lines, and accepted the applause. Yet his conscience never allowed him to settle. His principles ran far deeper than the scripts given to him. While fans were captivated by Adam Cartwright, Pernell marched in Selma, Alabama alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not as a star, but as a man compelled to act against injustice. That wasn't acting, it was real life. Back on set, he challenged the system, questioning why there were no people of color among the crew, why white actors repeatedly played Native American roles, and why progress moved so slowly. His protests often went unheard, yet he never stopped speaking out. Family and friends noted he found some support, but never enough to put out the fire within. Pernell Roberts could have stayed, built an empire, lived in luxury, and coasted on fame. But he chose integrity over applause. He walked away not out of pride, but from an unyielding desire for authenticity and purpose. In the end, Pernell Roberts taught us something Hollywood often forgets: that real strength isn't measured by how long you stay in the spotlight, but by how willing you are to step away from it when it no longer reflects who you are. He showed us that fame without meaning is just noise, and that sometimes the most powerful thing an artist can do is say no. His story reminds us that the people we admire on screen are complex human beings off-screen, with principles, flaws, passions, and pain. Pernell Roberts wasn't perfect, but he was honest. And in an industry built on illusion, that honesty made him unforgettable. So what do you think? Did Pernell Roberts make the right choice walking away from Bonanza at the height of his fame? Or do you think he should have stayed and tried to change things from within? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective on this complicated and fascinating man. And if you enjoyed learning about Pernell Roberts and the hidden truths behind classic Hollywood, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We're bringing you more untold stories about the legends who shaped television history, the triumphs, the struggles, and the secrets they kept behind closed doors. There's so much more to discover, and we're just getting started. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.